Call to order at 5:44 p.m., Monday, July 15, 2024, Baboquivari Unified School District Summer Board Retreat. Turn it over to Ruben, Superintendent, for roll call.
Juan Mundia absent. Kathy Vance
Inya Haicha.
and Ella Griswood. Anna Marie Stevens
Here.
and Sylvia Hendricks absent. We have 3 present and 2 absent.
Okay. Next, we go into the routine business. We make a motion to approve.
We have 1 motion. Anybody seconds it?
Second.
Second by Anna Marie Stevens. All those in favor?
Masapo. Aye. Masapo.
We have 3 yes present and 2 absent.
Motion carries. Number 4, information items, district presentations.
Thank you, Board Clerk Ms. Vance, for being here today, members of the board and members of the community. It is a very special board meeting because it's going to let us know or set the foundation for the entire year. It's a little checklist of where we are. Last year, we had a very successful retreat, and it helped us with all of the other business that we had throughout the year. We were able to walk away with information that way we know where we are, what kind of information we needed to run the business, and we are looking forward to share the information in this meeting as well to empower you as board constituents and also for the community. Anyone is welcome to attend the retreat as well or participate via live stream. And at this point, we're gonna go ahead and get started with little introduction to set the ground of what is going to happen the next couple of days. This retreat is 1 out of 3 meetings. It's a series of retreats or meetings that are going to let us know what are we going to be doing. To get started, to make sure that we also honor the traditions of the Tohono O'odham Nation, I would like to invite everyone that is able and capable of invite you to stand up so we can do an invocation. And I'm going to need a volunteer, so please at this point stand up if you're able to. And I need a volunteer. Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you for this time together. May we continue to grow with one another, to improve the education, and also to provide resources for our students and our families along with the community. Let us work hard to be a resource and empower those students to continue their education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Please sit down. And at this point, in terms of today, to be able to be making the most out of the meeting, I'm going to ask you what is the noise that is going on in our minds and how we can self-monitor. In front of you, right behind your name tag, there's a sticky note. Which one might be your greatest distractor today? Is it a text message, social media, any notifications, emails, stress, or other? I want you to write down which one is behind you. Which one is the one that may be your greatest distraction today? Acknowledge it. Just write it down. Write it down. Which one is the one that is going to keep you away from getting engaged today? And once you acknowledge, just put it in front of you. That way you're reminded that today your goal is to be successful. And when that comes up, it's your little reminders. Hey, no, this is right now what is keeping me away. I need to ensure that I ignore what's affecting you. That way you can fully engage into this activity. So write down the one item that may be distracting you today. Put it on the post-it. Just put it in front of you. That will be your reminder. Once you see it happening, says, "Oh, that's my distraction. I need to get back and get engaged." What you're gonna see is after an interactive presentation on benchmark data and the next steps aligned to a 3-year plan, we are the alignment of Project Elevate, IAP, in response to our data. The BUSD board will be able to define ways to actively monitor and support the district, the schools, and our staff. A little preview of what's going to happen the next couple of days. We are going to be here for 3 days from 5 to 7 every single day. And we're going to start with the district. We're going to start with a big picture. What is the district plan? We are on the second year of our plan. And we also going to see some of the data and also what are we going to do about it. So that is 2 days. Tomorrow and Wednesday, what you will see, it is a. I'm moving too much. Sorry. When I preach, I walk around the entire church. So what we do on Thursday, on Tuesday and Wednesday, you're gonna see an expansion of how does it go from the district to the schools, and then later on we're gonna get back and what does it look like within the departments. But by the end of the day, today you're gonna get that foundation. The more engaged you are today, everything else makes sense. Is gonna make sense for the schools, and it's gonna make sense for also the departments when they do the 2-year presentation. Um, for day 3, also, I want to remind you we do have some informational items. So at the end of day 3, we are going to need a quorum so we can go over some possible positions to approve since we are about to start the school year. For the first part, we're going to get all high tech.
Sorry, I know it's probably cumbersome to carry that.
Testing. So for the first, I'm gonna have to modify right now because I don't have everyone that I was expecting. But what I want you to do, I'm gonna give you a different post-it. Without cheating, without looking at resources, you're gonna have 2 minutes to write our 5 goals. You cannot cheat. You can only look at your post-it. You have 2 minutes to write our goals. We've been spending a whole year on our goals. See, how many can you get down in 2 minutes? Ready, set, you may begin. You cannot cheat, you cannot look. Hey Siri, set up a timer for 2 minutes. Can't cheat. Finish your thought. Now I'm going to ask you guys to stand up and get together, the three board members, and share to see if you collectively you can come up with the 5 goals. You cannot look at any of the resources yet. Do not look at. Please get together with all 3 of you and see if you can come up with all 5 goals. So secretive. 20 seconds. Feeling good? Excellent. Just in time. So, share with us what the collective knowledge, what are the 5 goals? I want you to guess what are the 5 goals that we have for the district. Who would like to present? Ready, set. I saw a lot of this. Go ahead,
Okay,
Ms. Van.
so one of the main goals for BUSD is that 80% of our students will master 70% of their, like the ELA math and, I don't remember what those are. But
It's
I know
okay.
that's
It's
the-
okay.
That's it
Hey,
right there.
what else?
Also, 90% attendance in school and by grade level, school-wide and by grade level.
Very nice. That's true.
And then we also really rely on the 10 essential standards. I'm not sure if that is a goal, but I know it's going to help us reach our goals.
Okay.
And then we're also looking at our students really getting that 25% in proficiency each time that they're evaluated or, when they do their testing and stuff. Those are what we have. I know we're missing a couple, but I think
Well, by the end of the
going
day,
direction.
I want you to keep that in mind because this is your own pre-post assessment. That way you'll be able to determine, I knew that one, but I forgot. Oh, I should have said that. By the end of the day today, and by the end of the next 3 days, you should be able to hear all 3. Not only you went to the goal, but you gave some specific of the goals, which I thank you. Well, having said that, let's start with reviewing our 3-year plan. You are more than welcome to stay seated and turn around, or you're more than welcome to join in one of these chairs. You have access on these two on these 2 monitors. So where are we in terms of our 3-year plan? Our 3-year plan, if you notice, this is the journey that we started. We completed last year, which was clearing the land or finding the areas that we were not being successful. And now we're starting, as of July 1st, building structures. So we are on phase 2 out of 3 in our 3-year plan. What does building structures mean? It's about having systems that work. What is systems that work? Can somebody share what is your understanding? What is your understanding of a system? or a structure? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to think about what is your definition of a system or structure. Your system. What is your system or structure? Ready? That was 10 seconds. Give me your best shot. Go ahead, Ms. Vance. What is your system? What is your interpretation of a system?
For me, I believe that in order to have a great plan in place, it has to have a great foundation, a solid foundation, and that's what we're working on. Is right now is starting to build that. I mean, we've done what we could, but we're starting to build that solid foundation for us to be able to start moving forward with all the good things that are going to come.
Excellent. Thank you. What is your interpretation?
Building off of that, I want to say it's a action plan of what steps are you going to take in order to achieve your goals and your objectives. And over the past 3 years, I think, we've been working on this. I think last year was something that when we laid down the different goals that we were focusing on was really helpful because it gave us a better understanding of what goals you want to achieve with the school system and then also with your staff. So I think it's basically just steps that we're going to take in order to improve or build upon to ensure that our students are successful.
So you do something to get something back.
Right.
You're going to give it your best effort and expect something back. Ms. Greasewood, what is your interpretation of a system?
You start out with a plan, and then you set a goal, and I would say about the teachers, have we have well, for me, I would know that for our children, that we want all the children to learn, and so set that goal, and for the children to learn, and just I guess follow our schools, our what we've been talking about, all these achievement that it's in the process, that to follow that and to try to get those get where we want our schools to be. So that will be the main thing. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing is you do something and expect something back. You need to have a solid foundation so we can build up, and you need to have a plan. Well, I'm going to share with you what is the basic structure that we're going to follow in terms of a system. For the next year, I want you to keep in mind 3 phases. How many? I didn't hear. Ready? 3 steps, 3 phases, 3 categories. And the system that we will be reinforcing all this year, it involves 3 main phases. The first one is the needs. To be able to understand what is a system, we need to know what we're going to be fixing. We need to identify the needs. What we know as assessments. We need data to determine what are the needs. The second step, ready? The second step is, what are we going to do differently? What are the best practices that are going to help students and that are going to help staff? Let's review that. The first one, we need to know the needs. The needs based on assessment. The second one is promising practices. And the last one requires some type of accountability. Is to understand, what are we going to do when it works? What are we going to do when it doesn't work? So that repeats a cycle. That repeats a system. So let's review that one. The first one is identify the needs. The second one, what are the promising practices that we're going to do differently? And the last one, yes, how are we going to hold each other accountable? How are we going to? So that is the structure, the system. What are we going to do with that? As you listen to our presentations, those are some of the questions that I want you to start answering. What is the system in place? What is the system in place? Meaning, what is the data that we're going to look at to determine what are the needs? Do we know exactly how we're going to address those needs? And the last one, how do we know if it works and if it doesn't? Peeling the onion and going more in depth, there are 4 specific layers that we're going to be reinforcing and pushing forward. And that is, do we have a plan? Something that requires to do something. Other areas are going to require to study something. The next one is we need to act on the information that we're getting and do something. So it's a plan that requires to do, to study, and to act. And we're going to repeat those 4 layers, and you're going to see how that's going to look like throughout the presentation and throughout the district. As a governing board, then how can you support? How can you support? Some of the questions that you can start asking moving forward is, if you don't see it, it's, can you share with us what is your system in place? Or I would like to hear more about your system in place for any of the goals that we have in place. And if you don't see it, part of the support is, well, next time we meet, I would like to see your system in place that addresses those 3 categories. It's what I want to hear. What are the needs regarding attendance, reading, math, science, standards? What is the system in place? What data we're looking to identify those needs? And then what are we going to do about it? So the what are we going to do about it, it requires what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? By when are you going to do it? And how are you going to hold people accountable? These pieces, I want to be going back and I'm going to be reinforcing it, and then I'm going to be asking. But as a board, as a body of the governing board, as we push to the building the structures and understanding system, we need to speak the same language. One of the same language that I want us to be aware of is our system is going to have 3 phases: the needs, the promising practices, as well as the accountability in place. And based on that information, how are we going to do it? By planning, by doing it, by studying, and by acting. And on the bottom, you can see on the graphical organizer, and I want to thank our district affair manager to help us organize and add the graphics so you can make it more digestible. But as you can see, on the bottom of the foundation is the main components of a system, of a structure. And above, how are we going to be taking it to the next level? Questions so far? No? Now, here's where I want you to have you posted handy to see how many you received. Okay? So goal number 1, it is behind us. Number 1 and number 2, it is 80% of our students are going to score 70% or better on standards. Reading, writing, math, science, social studies. All of our students, they need to score 70% or better. The second goal, 90%, we're expecting 90% attendance by student, by grade level, by school, by district. So that is the number 2. And based on those, that is part of the goal. That is the goal. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? Through the essential 10. Through the essential 10. Goal number 3, Goal number 3, to be able to achieve the 80% and the 90%, and I see Ms. Ben giggling. This is now the teacher language. This is what we're going to be expecting, empowering, and supporting our district by implementing the essential 10. That is goal number 3. Our teachers will be supported by reinforcing and implementing the essential 3. Goal number 4. Goal number 4 is we're going to support and challenge. We're going to support and challenge. What does that mean? If we're going to expect, we want to make sure that we're providing the support needed. It's providing the tools, providing the training, providing the coaching mechanism that we need by support and challenge so we can change the status quo. The cherry for this year, the one that you're going to hear a lot, it is engagement, which is goal number 5. Goal number 5 is our students are going to be receiving standards-based instruction and get engaged in that standard, and it's our responsibility to make it culturally relevant so our kids can see the connection in the community that we serve. I'm going to place a pause right there, and I want you now to share which ones did you know, but you did not record. Go ahead. I see you grabbing the
The goal number 3, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the parent, I view. Or
Parent view?
Parent view, but I thought that was, I knew it, but I didn't think it was part of it, but I thought it was, so I was like, oh my God, it is part of that.
It is part of it.
And then number 4, number 5, I didn't even think about those two. So
Well, out of this,
I'm glad that you mentioned it, because now I know that's part of the goal.
good. And this is a time to ask those questions. And more than anything, I want you to use these retreats to celebrate what you know. But I want to support and challenge you by pushing you so you can walk away with more goals. The more you understand our goals, the more you're going to be able to support us and the systems in place in building the structure. Anybody else? Something else that you had that you said, man, I knew that one, but I didn't record it.
I actually knew partial of it, and I was trying to remember like some of it, and I was like, I know there's a number, like the first one, and I could sing 70%, and I'm like, but there's another number, and I couldn't remember. And then I know something had to do with math and writing, but I couldn't think of like where it fell into, and I didn't remember any of the other ones. So I kept sitting here trying to think of like all these different things, and my brain was being overloaded.
No.
But I'm grateful that we're going through it because it makes me remember and thinking about our goals and how we're moving forward.
Well, to kind of point it out, essential, one of the 10 essential is a spiral, which is essential number 6. This is a spiral teaching, a spiral learning. It's we reviewing what we learn so we don't forget. So walk away not only with essential 10, but you're walking away with actually 3 more in there, which is a spiral. It's the coaching. Throughout everything that we do, we need to be providing the coaching so we can support and challenge. And you are right when you said the parent views, it's somewhere. Well, it is part of goal number 2. In order to reach the 90% attendance, we are going to be connecting with parents through parent view. We want 90% of the parents to connect to parent view, which is also one of the essential 10, one of our goals. And as the test on my weekly highlights, it tells you which goals we're meeting each week, which goals are we showing evidence as part of the spiral learning. You did mention the target. Let's go into a deeper dive in goal number 1. And Ms. Vance, you alluded to that. You are correct. It's 80% of our students that's going to score 70% or better in standard-based instruction. We do want our students to also have 90% attendance and 90% for parent view. However, it's within the next 3 years, we're going to build a foundation, but we expecting at least 25% from one mastery level to the next one. Why is that important? You are the ones that are going to be voting for 301. You are the ones that are going to be seeing in the next couple of days the data and how we did on benchmark assessment and how we did with the state. And it's to ask ourselves, well, I know within 3 years, we're going to reach 80% of our students that are going to score 70% or better. But how aggressively now are we going to be addressing those needs? What are the students' need? Today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, you're going to look at the needs by looking at the data. Red is not good. Red is not good. Blue is good. But however, what is the movement that we're making? Are we making 25% growth within our students? And most critically, it's those that are not proficient, we're expecting a 50% growth, otherwise they're never going to get out from that hole. Comments, questions? So those are the main, that is the meat for this particular slide, which is number one. We drilled this one last year so much that's the one that you will remember the most, because we went over and over and over. But guess what? Don't worry. We're going to drill it again, but we're going to be alluding to the other goals. To be able to reach year 2, which is the structures, and to be able to get closer and aggressively increase the performance level by implementing the Essential 10, these are the commitments that we're going to be pushing forward. The keywords that I want you to walk away and look for and hear throughout the presentation is engagement. Engagement. That is our golden nugget, engagement. A synonym that I want you to remember is models of instruction. Those are we're gonna use those as synonyms, not as sentiment, but as synonyms. Engagement and models of instruction. We spent a whole year going to Phoenix and getting to know multiple ways in how we can support our schools. You will see a presentation about models of instruction. That's something that we're going to be doing differently. The engagement is part of Goal 5. Goal 5 is engagement. And there's different ways to promote the engagement. And we have a whole slide section on engagement as well that I'm going to get to it. The second component that I want you to walk away is system, because that's where we are. We're moving forward. Everything that we do needs to have a system. We don't want surprises, and we want to hear, like I said, when the way you can support is, well, I want to hear about your system in place in this. Or, well, I don't see it at this point, or if you don't have it, I would like for next time that we get together, or by this date, I would like to see your system in place that you're going to be implementing to address a need. Sometimes as a governing board, or sometimes ourselves, we share, well, have you guys thought about, and that's a common question that we use. I want to invite you so we can change that, so we can use the lingo that will promote growth. I want to hear your system in place that shows what are the needs, what are the practices, and how you're going to hold people accountable. That shows the growth. And if you don't hear it, well, I still don't hear it, but I would like to hear it next time, that you have your system in place. Those are the questions that will be promoting the growth and reinforcing the phase 2 of our strategic plan. Another phase that you're going to see to be able to reach our aggressive growth is the support. Throughout the whole 3 days, I want you to pay attention to what are the support systems in place. And I know our curriculum and instruction is going to dive into it specifically in what are we doing differently. Something that I don't know if you included, or I don't remember what you're going to allude to, is the the calendar. Kinsey and Gabriela? No? Okay. And it is part of our the presentation, something that we were very purposeful and strategic is how are we going to maximize the year? How are we going to divide our expertise in a way that is predictable, that makes sense, and that is going to support in the implementation not only of our goals. For instance, for goal number 1, we talked about proficiency. The key word here in goal number 1 is proficiency. It is that 80% of our students are going to score 80% or 70% or better in standards, in our essential standards. And I want you to see that this is going to require some planning, something to do, something to study, and something to act. The ones that I want to point out to the governing board, again, what are the needs, the promising practices, and the accountability. Let's start with number 4, which is how we're going to act. Tutoring and interventions, it has a way to, it's multiple components of our goals that we're going to be meeting. The tutoring is not only tier 2 in the essential 2 that is part of our goals, and also how we're going to support and challenge our students. It's also a promising practice if a student stay behind, and then we need to provide that tutoring. The shared accountability, part of the calendar, we have to be purposeful as to how we're going to hold each other accountable. It is not only through the data, but something that we need to go more in depth this year is have a specific date schedule in the calendar. So we are going to review the data. We're going to study that data. That we're going to talk about that data. We're going to respond to the data. And we have something else that is going to require acting on it. It's something our ladies they're going to talk about the coaching continuum. Do you allude to it? So I want to break the bubble, but pay attention when they get to the coaching continuum, and that has to do with once we review the data and we know what our teachers and the students need. The promising practices that we will be implementing is the multi-tier levels of support through tutoring, but also coaching. We're going to see coaching in a different angle that is going to be more specific, more targeted, based on multiple layers of developmental levels of a teacher. Depending on where they're at, we're going to identify it and say, well, you're here, but we want to get you here. It's going to help the principals as well. Well, if this is where they are, this is what we need to do to move them forward. And how are we going to hold us accountable? Well, we have the classroom visits, we have the data, and we also have the evaluation platform that is going to have modifications so we can collect that data. That's an example of how we're addressing the proficiency. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints? Not yet? All right. For number 2, goal number 2, once again, it is going to be how we're going to increase attendance, chronic absenteeism, and how we're going to get the parents involved, how they're going to continue to promote the parent view. Well, attendance, what we are doing and continue to do is finding ways in how we increase the opportunities through JTID. That's something that we need to act on it. We know it's something that works. We know that as long as we continue to have a plan, let's continue to provide what students need so they can make it to school. and how we communicate the parents through the parent portal. When every time we have an opportunity, any event, we need to continue to promote the parent view, the parent portal, so more and more parents, they continue to hold us accountable and hold their children accountable, and so they can see specifically not only how they meet in the mastery, but also the attendance. Something that we still in the development and we're still working, part of the district ILT, we're also developing the model of leadership. The model of leadership. It's coming together and deciding how our principals and assistant principals will be successful in reaching all of these aggressive goals. So they also need development, they also need the support, and we're going to be targeting specific areas to build capacity with the principals and also hold them accountable in those areas. Defining, based on this area, this is what we mean, this is what we expect, and this is some of the evidence that we're going to look for. Now, Essential 10. This is targeted mainly to our teachers and principals. However, this is also the core of what we're doing and how we support and how we conduct business. If there's no movement, and then we need to do something differently. If you see, based on the Essential 10, number one is going to require the curriculum mapping. It's something that we need to plan. It's something that we need to ensure that we have it in place. We need to have the year at a glance so teachers they understand the pace. We need to have our lesson planning and ensure that with those lesson planning, our teachers have the most successful plan in how to promote essential essential 3, tier 1 instruction. As we present and as we have a research-based curriculum, and the intention is that our teachers, they're going to spend more time placing the engagement, their magic, and the content knowledge to deliver the lessons. But what we're looking for is that lesson, at the end of that lesson, we want to get it closer to 80% of the students scoring 70% or higher the first time they teach it. That should be the number one goal. That is the aggressiveness, is that they reach that level of performance. By not doing so, and then it will carry on in other areas for tier 2 and tier 3, and then creative recovery, and that's how we continue to get under in a hole. Two of the essentials that cover that's something that we need to do, we definitely need to roll out and continue to support and do. It's the tier 1 instruction. And as part of the engagement, we need to continuously check for understanding. We need to target on the learning, not on the teaching. Teaching can be pontificating, regurgitating, dictating. It's a one-way communication. But it is checking for understanding is, are they getting it? If not, why are we standing for 7 hours in front of kids if they're not getting it? So it is understanding that something that we need to do is checking for understanding. Time that we need to spend to study, it is essential number 5, which is essential 5 is a tier 2. Who is not getting it and how are we going to do it differently? And essential number 7, it is, let's look at the benchmark, not because it is time for benchmark and this is how the students did, but it's time to reflect and say, who got it, why did they get it, and what are we going to do about it? Who didn't get it, why they didn't get it, and what are we going to do about it? And it goes back to, what are the needs? Well, the benchmarks are going to tell us what are the needs. What are the promising practices? curriculum mapping, YAG, tier one, checking for understanding, the spiral teaching. How are we going to know if we get it and what are we going to do about it, holding each other accountable? We go back to the assessments, and the cycle repeats itself. For something that we need to act on is the spiral teaching. As you know, it's benefit for, us as adults by having the spiral teaching. And also, when a student doesn't get it the first time, doesn't get it the second time within the classroom, and then how are we going to do it with tier three or a different setting, a different teacher, a different program? That way they can get the 80% of the students are going to score 70% or better. I said earlier, part of the rollout, it requires what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? By when are we going to do it? And how are we going to hold each other accountable? This is part of the strategic plan, the 2-year strategic plan. But for these essential 10 is giving clarity as to what are we going to be looking for during the year to ensure that we're doing what we're supposed to and that we're getting the results that we need to. And ask now for the evidence. Show me as part of your system evidence of this. As you can see, leadership models. This is something that we're going to roll out this year, and it's by rolling out the leadership model, we're going to target all of the 10 essentials as part of it. Another one that has a red mark is the models of instruction, which is the engagement that we're going to be pushing throughout the whole year. By pushing engagement or the models of instruction, we're going to be targeting essential 3, essential 5, essential 7, 9, and 10. By having a coaching continuum, if we push it, look at how many, every single component of the essential 10 is going to be targeted, as well as by having data talks during ILTs, we're going to be able to target every single one of the essential 10. Questions so far? Too much too soon? Okay, good. The next one is support and challenge, which is number 4, support and challenge. It's having a growth mindset. And when we ask for what are the systems in place, we are supporting and challenging each other. We're holding each other accountable. How are we going to support and challenge? Multiple trainings. We have trainings every single Friday. We have professional development. Beyond textbooks, they're going to have a conference and they're going to have check-ins in Beyond Textbook. In terms of PLC, something that we're going to do differently is to join the PLCs to find out, are they doing it because we're asking them to do, or are they using the professional learning community to determine are the students getting it or not? And if they are, why? If they're not doing it, why are not getting it? Or what are we going to do differently? That's part of the support and challenge. Another way that we can support and challenge is through the walkthroughs, is by going and visiting the classrooms. All of us, when you're going to have a party or some visitors, we're going to go the extra mile. The same thing in the classroom. It's good nervous because they're going to put the extra support. For 2 cents, yes. There you go. So ways to support and challenge, that's something that we need to act on, and we're going to be acting on throughout this year. And standards-based instruction. Again, the number 1 keyword that I want you to remember is engagement, models of instruction. Engagement, models of instruction. By that's something that we need to act, and that's the buzzword that you're going to hear throughout the next couple of days. So, engagement. There's a difference between having fun and being engaged in the lesson. Part of the system in place is that, yes, we're going to bring Ron Clark, Kagan, we're going to bring in Avid, but the reason we want to bring that is because how is a student going to be engaged by having those strategies? Versus, it's not about how loud and crazy a classroom get. The ultimate goal on the bullseye is it making a difference or not? So the question is, so based on these engagements activities in your system in place, what impact is having in learning? When we go and visit classroom, is one of the questions is, well, I noticed this pattern. I want to learn more about your system in place and how you engage in the students and what impact it's having. I noticed that you completed 50 classroom visits this month. Well, what is your system in place and what impact is having in improving the teacher performance and student learning? Are you following me? How the system is going to be working in the type of patterns that we're going to be following and pushing? All right. Okay, this is a big review. And again, thanks to not only everyone that went to Elevate, but Tanya's gift in organizing and putting the visuals and all of it in one page. There was a whole lot of learning in this page. And this, we gave you this last year, and it looks something like this. This is something that we were learning. And we gave you a graphic organizer so you understand now what are we going to be doing. Well, we spent a whole year ourselves learning what that looks like, what does it mean. And this is an example of what it's going to look like. What I want you to walk away from this slide, you see the upside down stop sign or the pentagon with the little squares. I want you to imagine your students in a small group, and a student that can ask to the person to the left, the person to the right, and the person in front for questions and ask for clarification. In that little group, in which each group had somebody that is going to be reading, somebody that is going to be summarizing, somebody that is going to be the writer, somebody that is going to be the speaker, and then they're going to collect and share the learning. An example of that is the beginning activity that we had today. That I wanted you to think, and then I wanted you to collectively share how much learning you can put together, and then come back and present and continue to learn by saying, well, now I'm going to present it. Now I want you to reflect to see how many you get or you got so you can continue to learn. It's because those that are doing the talking are doing the learning. And in here, this is a part of the essence of what we're going to do this year is based on engagement or the models of instruction. How are we going to know that this is is happening? It's because of the lesson plans. They're intentional, and because in the lesson plans they're going to have, this is how I'm going to engage our students in this lesson. It's because they're going to have the data is going to be showing, are they learning it? Are they owning the learning or not? It's during the lesson plan, we want to see when are they going to stop and strategically stop to check for understanding by asking those questions. And the students are able to demonstrate the learning by having multiple ways in presenting their information, but it's owned by the student. If a student decides to do a poster, but it has all of the components, and it shows that he learned the standards, it's acceptable. If a student decides to do a YouTube video, which we saw this year during the board, and how they're explaining math, it's acceptable. Or if a student wants to take the test and says, hey, here it is. but they have multiple opportunities and show how they are getting the mastery. And evidence is that they are helping each other, that they're collaborating, that they had those discussions, and they're supporting each other. That's kind of the evidence that we're looking for in the classroom. I'm gonna give you 15 seconds to summarize what are we looking for this year as models of instructional engagement. If a constituent stops you and say, what is models of instruction? How would you respond to it? I'm gonna give you 15 seconds to think about it, and I will know that you're ready when you are scratching your forehead. If I am a parent and I say, I hear these models of instruction, what is that? So how would you respond to the parent? By sharing the information that I just shared. Say that again. Call the superintendent. And you're gonna look at, well, yes, you can. It is this slide, and behind you are all of the tools that you need. What does models of instruction mean? Because we're gonna publish that everywhere. What is your definition? If I'm a parent, say, what is this whole deal of models of instruction? Is there one that is ready?
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, I see. Everybody's still reading, writing, researching, and you ready? Or you scratch? All right. So I want you to talk to the person next to you and share your definition. If you're a parent and they ask you, what is all this deal of models of instruction? Please share.
Okay.
This year, it was the admin teams that got trained, and some of them they already started pushing it forward. But now this year is a full implementation of models of instruction. That is a promising practice. Based on the data, the need says our students need to be engaged. The promising practice is let's try models of instruction and push it forward so we can address that learning. And the accountability is based on walkthroughs, based on PD agendas, um, and and the results are going to let us know if we move in the right direction. You got it. I got so excited. Finish your thoughts. Who is a brave soul that wants to be recorded first? Thank you, Ms. Vance. So tell me, what is all this deal about models of instruction?
Okay. So, Ella and I, Ella had brought up some information, and it ties back to the models of instruction. But, you know, we send our teachers to conferences and to learn to teach new ways, and like AVID, you know, all types of conferences that they go to. And part of that learning, they're bringing back new ways of learning and teaching our students to mainly I guess, reinforce their curiosity, critical thinking, reasoning, all of that stuff. So the teachers want to make sure that the students are learning what is being taught. And so they do, and the model is like what we just done. We sat together and we threw ideals together, and then now we're presenting to you as the teacher instead of the teacher being the one standing there and the students just taking notes. So it's a way of them learning in a different manner. So that is excellent. I love it.
Come on, give her a hand. Come on. Now let's hear from team number 2. What are models of how would you respond?
Ultimately is to empower students, to give them the ability to learn from the instructor, for them setting out an intentional plan for them to learn, and them teaching each other and have a better understanding of what they learn to empower them to move forward. And I was just thinking about this earlier when you were going by. I was like, it would be really good to create a game of the essential 10 and like putting them into different puzzles, and then everybody kind of figuring out where they fall under and what they're doing, because I think that's a way of learning. For me, I'm very visual, and so like if I do that, it makes sense. So I would love Tanya's work she done on this, because it helps me, but it also helps me in regards to like writing things down. So I think ultimately it's just empowering our students to be the teacher.
Ms. Hendricks, what would you like to add?
Just to add to that, I think engagement is a big part of it. And then how do you, what are the results? Also is a big part. Are they learning? Or do they understand?
Give her a hand. Give the other team a hand. So this is only the beginning, only the foundation of the next 2 days. And understanding this component now is going to help you navigate. Remember, as a summary, we want to maximize student engagement through the models of instruction. Some examples, you said it right. Well, they've gone to AVID. The question is, are we doing it? Are we doing it well? And is it showing on the data? So that's part of the system of accountability that we're looking for. And from my governing board all the way to my teachers and students, I need them to know the goals. What are we working for so we all head in the right direction and the same direction? And the last one is we're gonna go ahead and continue to maximize the support so our students, our teachers are getting the support that they need. And by having solid tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction, multiple coaching opportunities at all levels, and ongoing implementation of the leadership models at the admin level. So at this point, I'm gonna now hand it over to my colleagues, because now they're gonna get into the next phase, which is the data, the next steps. What are the needs? As we change, please take a 5-minute break, get more food, get some snacks, so we can make it through phase 2. And what can I help you with? Huh? Presentations, you want to hand them off?
Very good. It's locked.
Good evening, Governing Board. We're going to do a presentation from the Office of the Curriculum and Instruction. So I guess buckle up. Here we go. It's going to be a wild ride, y'all. So just to reorient ourselves, this is the district mission and vision. So our vision statement, our students will be loved, encouraged, and prepared to take on the world by embracing our human lug. And our mission statement, we create healthy, inspiring, motivating, developing, achieving graduates. And so that's just a great way to orient ourselves as we move into curriculum and instruction. So for our 3-year plan, we have kind of this 3-year process. You heard it from Mr. Diaz, but we'll give it to you again anyways. So objective number 1, we always want to work on clearing the land. So that was year 1. We are currently in year 2, which is building the structures. And year 3, we are focusing on maintaining that success. We do have our stretch goals up there. The proficiency goal, 80% of our students will score 70% mastery or better in the essential standards in math and ELA, and that all classes will have an attendance rate of 90% or better. So just like Mr. Diaz said, those 2 things, you'll hear a lot of that throughout a lot of the 3-year plans, and that's just because we're consistent with it. It's the collective goals, not just the goals of Mr. Diaz or y'all as the board, it's our collective goals.
I'm gonna have to hold this. With clearing the land, how we began was by looking at tier 2 instruction, the spiraling of all the information and ensuring that our calendars were purposeful and focused, and also looking at tutoring and summer school. In building systems, we are looking at curriculum mapping, our YAGs, and our benchmarks. And we'll give you some more info as we go. We just wanted to give you a review of what our...
This is a surface level overview. So here in year 1, like we said, one of our focus points was on tutoring and summer school. So we did have tutoring throughout the school year that our students engaged in. The real highlight is our summer school. So we had our Lego education-based summer school. A lot of the students really enjoyed that. Y'all had the board report about that at the last one. We're not going to rehash everything, but that is, Medina was the one who was really fired up about Lego, and so we think that it went really, really well. But beyond just the kids having fun, the students learned a lot of that applicable knowledge in math and in ELA, and we had thematic units in all of the grade levels.
And one great thing about the Lego kits is that they're reusable and sustainable, so it's not something that we have to continue purchasing, so the kids can use it for future years to come. Yes, we actually saw a conference. We were at a conference and they were at a vendor table. And so we spoke to them and got some more information. And when we found out that it was something that we could purchase, we thought it was an easy choice.
Mm-hmm. And we liked it because it's really, it's not just another online computer program. It's not just like another like textbook. It's a great way for our students to kind of get out of the box and apply their learning and really get engaged with it and build it. And like Medina said, we have the sets as long as we have the sets. And so it's that longevity piece. Mm-hmm. Yes, lots of our students enjoy that. So also in year 1, we focused on our benchmark assessments. So Ms. Medina and I both look very critically with a very critical eye at the benchmark assessments and think very strategically about how do we make sure that our benchmark assessments are accurately assessing our student knowledge, but that beyond that they also mirror and can predict about what a class will look like on the state assessments as well. And one of the things that the sites have done this summer is spending time uploading their formative assessments into our assessment platform so that we have all of our assessments ready to go for this school year. So we're just ready to go. Do you want to add anything?
With curriculum mapping, one thing that we are utilizing is a Beyond textbooks, and they already map out most of the standards for all the grade levels. The only thing is that we found that some dates that BT had originally uploaded didn't coincide with our school district calendar, but that's one thing that we noted, and we've already adjusted for this following school year.
And we both have looked through the math and the ELA ones, just to do a quick overview check of does this match the progression that we anticipated? Is it going to serve our students? Does it serve our calendar? So that our teachers have that time to review before benchmarks, do the benchmark assessment, and then really lean into that tier 2 instruction, which is that reteach and enrich. So we've been very purposeful with not only do the site's calendars and their bell schedules have room for reteach and enrich, but we've dedicated time in their years at a glance for them to do the reteach and enrich. So we can ensure that we get all of our students to that stretch goal.
With our continuous support, this is something that we will do from years on, doesn't matter where we are in the process. But lesson planning, tier 1, our emphasis on fluency and our cultural relevance, that the formative assessments are done in a weekly, bi-weekly manner, because with this we can get data to make focused decisions on instruction. We're also working on connecting with stakeholders at every site, parents, families, students, staff, the community, and also coaching. Mr. Diaz kind of touched on it a little bit, and we'll talk about it in an upcoming slide on the plan and approach that we have for the next school year on how we're going to strengthen our coaching.
All right, so we touched a little bit on this with the curriculum mapping, but really in year 2, we're going to focus on, as it says up there, the continuous building of academic foundations while adding in these few things here. So with years at a glance, like we said, we've already worked alongside Beyond textbooks to make sure that those years at a glance not only work for us and our school district, but also for our students and our teachers. So making sure that those are designed purposefully, because that also supports our administrators. If we have clear years at a glance, if they can quickly know, I know what's happening in 3rd grade math today, then when they have those classroom visits, it becomes a purposeful coaching conversation with their teachers. It's not spending that time, well, I'm not sure what's going on in that 2nd grade classroom because, the YAG didn't quite line up. Now we have it where everything is lined up, and they should be able to have those conversations a little more purposefully, because the teachers are staying with that year at a glance, that progression map.
Tier 1 instruction, our plan is to monitor and support it through walkthroughs, site visits, coaching sessions, attending PLCs, and also help facilitating some data talks. We are also planning on supporting sites with PD so that the principals and the assistant principals can provide differentiated PD and use us as support to help give that professional development. Through Tier 1, we're also going to be supporting the sites by determining which teachers they need support with, that Ms. Kinsey and I can either help support with content in either math or ELA, through Beyond textbooks, the model of instruction, all the different things that we are trying to implement. And with that, we're hoping that the majority of students will get all the instruction they need, mostly in Tier 1. And so minimizing the students who need Tier 2 or Tier 3 instruction.
So that ties in really nicely to what happens with Tier 2 instruction. So those students that don't quite get it that first time around, reteach and enrich, like I mentioned, we do have the dedicated time on the instructional calendar where teachers have a week after the benchmark assessments to really respond to that data purposefully. Most sites also have built-in time for reteach and enrich within the day. Actually, all sites have it built in for their day. And so really what our role in this is facilitating that data talk, supporting teachers with how do I reteach this? You know, supporting in those reteach strategies, those enrich strategies, and really just focusing on that data discussion. So supporting in that in the best way that we can.
And then finally, spiral review. We did talk about it a little bit. Ms. Kinsey looked exactly at our benchmark dates and the BT dates, and she ensured that there was always a time at every grade level that right after a benchmark, there's no new standards being taught, so that teachers have that opportunity to go back and reteach the standards that the students might not have understood for that quarter or assessment. And so we feel like with that, it helps spiral everything that we. Hello? Okay.
And with the spiral review, one of the things that we'll also be working on, so Mr. Diaz talked a lot about the Plan, Do, Study, Act, which is the continuous improvement cycle from AVID. In that same frame of mind, spiral review, we want to kind of take some of that guesswork out. There are math standards that connect to previous math standards. There are ELA standards that connect to previous ELA standards. And so one of the things that Medina and I will be doing is going through and finding those high leverage standards that we can be purposeful about including in our year at a glance, where it says, hey, when you're teaching this concept, you can also look back to August and bring that standard forward with you. So that any student who might not have gotten it in August gets another chance in September when we do a different standard. So being purposeful of that, because if we can take some of that guesswork out of it for our teachers, it makes their lives a lot easier. They can spend their time really focusing on the learning activities and not saying, what are all these standards, which one also connects here?
So one of the systems that we've worked, I put one under your presentation already. It's laminated for you to have. We can't ever have too many copies of it. Is the model of instruction BUSD style. So we've attended Elevate in Phoenix, where we've gone over all of these things as a district. And so what Ms. Sudam did was turn it into something that made sense for us. And it's a beautiful infographic. Thank you, Ms. Sudam. And so what we're hoping with this is that students are given the agency to take learning into their own hands, turning the teacher into a coach rather than a director. So a lot of the things that we're working on and trying to do is helping teachers get from that director, blue box, up to the top into a coach and a consultant.
So one of the other things that we have done with the support of Ms. Sudam, and I think an existing district document, maybe? Was this sort of, had pieces existing, or is this brand new? Okay, it's mostly new. So what we've done, what she has done is build this coaching continuum. So as you may know, our sites have, they don't have the school improvement specialist position right now. And so that's a lot of weight to place on the shoulders of our principals and our assistant principals when they already have so much on their plate and on their shoulders. So what we have done is we have tried to streamline the process of supporting and coaching our teachers. And so this is something that we are planning on rolling out this school year, is the coaching continuum. So it's a way to stage our teachers and see where they need that targeted support. If you've looked into the Charlotte Danielson, there's a lot of, it's the Charlotte Danielson framework for evaluating teachers. There's a lot of components within it, and it's really, really hard to do a lot of things really, really well. We know that in life, in education, as your roles as school board members, it's hard to do a lot of things at the same time very well. So what the goal is with the coaching continuum is to be able to say, hey, I have a few teachers in stage 1 that need support with 2C. How can Kinsey and Medina help them? So looking in, there are generally between 2 to 3 indicators per stage for our teachers. And so Medina and I have gone through and said, here are some areas where we can leverage our expertise in our content areas to support our teachers. So if we have a teacher who's in stage 1, who's really building that foundation of instruction, we can really support them with setting instructional outcomes and maintaining purposeful environments. That's where we can leverage our content expertise to support that teacher in moving to the next stage. Yes.
When you're working with the teachers, coming in, do you do an evaluation coming in to see where they're at each stage, or is it part of the walkthroughs when you determine that?
So we're working on rolling this out with our principals. And so a discussion that we had was to start with everyone at stage 1 just to see where we're at. And so this is a continuous thing. It's not just at the district walkthroughs, it will happen also with our principals. And so the goal is always just continuous improvement. That's really the goal there. And so finding strategic ways, systematic ways that we can be purposeful about how we're supporting our teachers. We're gonna start everyone with stage 1 because this is new. And so we wanna make sure that everyone has a fair chance to start out. It'll also give us and our principals time to figure out some of the quirks. As you roll out a new system, there will always be quirks. So it gives us a great chance to iron those things out and make sure that we are supporting our teachers in the best way possible. Okay. Is that okay? Like I don't have like, we can move on. It's me. All right, so in year 3, it's kind of hard to know where we'll be in year 3. So these are the 6 things that we really want to focus on continuing to refine into year 3. So in school year 25-26, really refining tutoring in summer school. Every time we do something again, we get better. And so using that mindset of plan, do, study, act. Well, we've planned it, we've done it, now we need to study it and act upon it for the future. So looking at tutoring in summer school, benchmarks, curriculum mapping, YAGs, spiral review, and tier 2 instruction.
So what we've also been working hard on is creating those systems that Mr. Diaz mentioned earlier in all of these areas, so that even if 10 years from now, Ms. Kinsey and I are no longer here at the district, there's already a system in place where we don't have to reinvent the wheel or start from scratch. We've already come up with systems that work for our district.
All right, so now we get to dive into the fun part, or at least my favorite fun part, the numbers. All right, so we're gonna take a look at some school-wide data here. Last year, I believe at the last board retreat, we presented y'all with this data review sheet. So at the top, there's the mission and the vision, as per always. Then we have the breakdown of our proficiency bands from not proficient all the way up to highly proficient. And so you'll notice that there's some guiding questions for growth and then some positive feedback prompts. So these are just question stems or sentence stems for how to purposefully review and look at data. Over the next 2 days, you will have a lot of data. You'll have a lot of data presented to you. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was to provide y'all, to remind y'all of a tool that you have when looking at data and how to ask those questions of principals and to ensure that they are also thinking about those strategic things when they look at their data. All right, so what we're gonna do is y'all have elbow partners, so that's perfect.
And we printed them out a little bit bigger, just because we know they're not the best.
Yeah, the graphs aren't the greatest to read on a tiny sheet of paper. All right, so Board Member Stevens and Board Member Hendricks, we're gonna have y'all working on that first page. Board Clerk Vance and Board Member Greasewood, we're gonna have you, if you just open it up, look at that inside page. Just. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, so in your pairs, is it back on? It's back on. In your pairs, you are looking at 2 different data sets. So the 2 of y'all are looking at the same data set and the 2 of y'all are looking at the same data set. So what you're going to do is using that data review sheet, think about a couple questions that you could ask based on the data and some positive feedbacks that you can provide based on the data.
Yeah, and what you're looking at is the first pie is the pre, and the second one's the post.
If you're stuck, feel free to nudge your elbow partner and ask them.
All right, hopefully you have your question. Can you turn to your elbow partner and ask them the question that you came up with? Take turns, because you each should have one.
If you're not sure on a question to ask, this would be a good time to chat with your partner because we're going to have you share them to the whole group in just a second.
I heard some good collaboration, and I heard you guys helping each other. Can we hear some of the questions you guys came up with this data set?
Up on the board, we do have that first page. So board members Stevens and Hendricks, if y'all want to share your question.
So my question was, or I guess our question was, what system do you have in place for how you had the minimum proficiency of 62.5, and now you have it at 27.8, which is good. But how are we going to bring that down even less? What was the system, and will you continue to use it in order to?
Yes. So it's that systematic thinking of we've noticed that you've done stellar things in decreasing that minimally proficient. What is the system that brought you this success? And how will that system continue to grow the success? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. All right. Board members or board clerk Vance and board member Greasewood. Share your question with us.
My question is, My question is, how many students made no growth, and what is the plan to move students that are not making the growth?
Yeah. So these are purposeful questions that our principals should be asking themselves, but sometimes it's nice to hear the question from someone else. So y'all were looking at two different data sets. You have no information on grade level, content area, but you can still have purposeful discussions and ask purposeful questions about the data. So these two here, I don't even remember which ones we pulled. We have one set that looks like we want it to look, and we have one set that has some room to grow. But we can still ask those positive, constructive questions about the data. Because it's not about what happened back then. It's about from this moment forward, what is the plan? What are the systematic ways to improve from what we've been at? It's always about that continuous improvement. You can never change the past, you can only change the future.
And by having those discussions, it helps all those thought processes come out. So by asking these questions, it helps drive that plan forward on what are we going to do next.
So these both, we compiled a whole bunch of data, but you'll see the specific sites and grade levels tomorrow and over the next 2 days. So both of these are a specific grade level and a specific subject area. So for example, second grade ELA. I don't know if either of these is second grade ELA. I'm telling you, we saved them and I have no idea what they are now.
We just picked random ones for this activity so we can practice, so that when you see real school site data in the next few days, you're able to ask those questions and see the differences in the different graphs.
And like Mr. Diaz was saying, it's really that focus on systematic change. So if whether it was a success or it was not a success, it's what is the systematic change or what is the system that will continue to breed that success. That's really what we're looking for, is not just, we don't just want to celebrate the past, we want to see how does that past success support us and launch us into that future.
So I guess with that, like on the what we had, I noticed from the pretest to the post, that almost 30% went from the non-proficient to minimal proficient. So the questions, I guess, would be something like, based on this, the increased proficiency and growth, what did you do, and how are we going to keep doing that? I guess for the principals. So
Yeah.
because that is a really big. That's almost 30%. So that's really good. So.
Yeah. It's recognizing the growth that we do make, but always aiming for that further. Because in these proficiency bands on the top of your data review sheet, the red up there is from 0 to 25%, correct? And the orange is from 25 to 50%. So we still have the majority of our students scoring below 50. But it's easy to fall into that, wow, we've got, look at it, it's red and it's orange. But that's a great way to view it. You made some gains. How will you continue those gains? That's the conversation that we want to have. Okay. Yes.
I was just wondering about students that are not doing well. Is it because that they miss too many school days or tardy, or I don't know if that's a factor on students not doing well?
So there can be multiple factors that impact student achievement and student achievement on test scores. And so our sites are partnering up with a program called MTSS, Multi-Tiered System of Support, to really look at each individual student and say, if this student isn't achieving, what might be the root cause, and build in those systems to support that student. It will vary student to student, but sites are looking at very systematic ways to address that.
Now, to further question, or to take the question to the next level, is it's next time I would like to hear your system in place in how you're going to address the needs for the students that dynamic growth. You see that? We're asking the same questions, but we want to promote the growth and promote the change. You are concerned about the students that dynamic growth. So what we want to promote within the system is, thank you for the presentation, but next time I would like to hear your system in place to address the needs for the students that dynamic growth. That way we know what is the needs for them, what promising practices are they going to put in place, and how they're going to hold everyone accountable. Yeah.
All right, so this is one mode of data. Oh, yes.
No, I was just, I was thinking about this earlier, but I was just wondering with teachers that, we have a lot of returning and teachers that have been here for a long time. But then we have the new teachers that are coming in. And I was just thinking culturally, are they getting the information of who our students are, where they're coming from, that will help them in their systems, or their, how they want to teach. I think that's a big part of it too, because I remember a long time ago when they used to talk about things that we had no idea what teachers were talking about that happened in the city or in another state, that didn't pertain to where we come from.
So what is our system in place to facilitate the learning for new teachers so they get acquainted in how our community where we live to be sensitive to support our students learning. And yes, part of the system in place.
I was like, thank you for asking.
I know. I was like, oh, it's like we planted you in the audience on purpose. Today we started our new teacher induction with our 10 fabulous new teachers. And tomorrow we're going to go down to Himadaki and we're going to spend some time. We're going to do a tour there. We also have one of our culture teachers who's going to do a culture presentation. And then we're going to do a scavenger hunt around the museum. So showing our new teachers, it doesn't only exist in cells. The Thanatham Nation is vast. And then on day 3, I'm very, very excited for this. Mr. Mike Enos put together a tour for us. So we're going to go way out west to Ruth's Oidag and Guvo. Then we're going to go up through Hikawan. We're going to go over to Santa Rosa. We're going to stop at the Hanam Cook new rec center. And then we're going to come back. So we are purposefully trying to facilitate that knowledge, those experiences where our new teachers will really understand how vast the Thanatham Nation is, how while our students may come from the same place, they don't have the same lived experiences. And so trying to just expose them to as much as we can in a very systematic way.
Thank you.
It's like we planted you in the audience.
I was like, perfect timing for that question. I have a
But I
question.
think at some point, even the teachers that have been here maybe kind of need reminders. I don't know.
Board Member Stevens?
It brings a good point, because you're talking about teachers who have been here for a while, because even those teachers who have been here for a while, and if they haven't gone on that tour, at some point they should get introduced to that. I think it's really important to create curriculum that's culturally relevant to who we are. But also, you talked about it being individualized approach. Who is the teacher the one monitoring who's going to need those individual approaches, or is there a team of people that are going to be working that, like your leads?
Is that, are you referring to the students?
Yes.
Okay, that will generally be a team. that are monitoring the students with the help of each site will be able to better speak to what their MTSS program is because it does vary site to site and how they create it. So that would be a great question to ask of the sites because we can't speak on behalf of them for that.
Okay, thanks.
You're asking the right questions. We're starting from the foundation, getting you ready. So when they come tomorrow, you're gonna be armed with all the tools in how to see information and as well what kind of questions you're gonna be able to ask.
Yeah, I would jot that one
I was going to
down.
say, do you need a Post-it note?
We got them.
Yeah, and I believe that too, it's culturally relevant, but yet reaching those benchmarks.
It's a beautiful balance of the two, yes. So some of the data that y'all will see will look a little bit like this, where we have a pre and a post. I turned it off again. Some of them may look like this, that our first group over here, Board Member Stevens and Board Member Hendricks had. Some of them may look a little like this, that Board Clerk Vance and Board Member Greasewood had. But remember that we can always ask those questions with positive intent. Celebrate what we've done, but ask how those celebrations, those positives will continue. One of the other ways that you may see this is from a growth perspective. Again, we don't know which grade level this is. We just pulled one. Because for the purpose of what we're doing, it's not about the nitty gritty of this is what's happening in high school algebra 1. This is about how do we ask those purposeful questions so that we can, I had it and then I lost it. It's how we can ask those purposeful questions of our principals so that collectively we work together towards future successes. So this is a growth. So it's about students moving up those proficiency bands. So any student who stayed, let's say I was minimally proficient, I stayed minimally proficient, that's a maintenance. Was minimally, went to partially, that's my GRU 1. So I'm not sure if you'll see any of these over the next 2 days, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up that you may see these. Yes.
I do have a question. Are you, is the goal to train family members on how students can progress from not being proficient to like moving up? Like, I know they do it during maybe parent-teacher conference, but is there any other ways that parents can be informed of how to help their students?
You're going to need another Post-it note because that's a great question to ask the sites because it's all going to depend on the age of the students.
That's a great question that we can ask also when the departments do their 2-year plan. For example, the workshop that Ms. Hart organizes and the one that our counselors organize.
I think there's a pen in that pencil box.
Yeah, some of these more site-specific questions are great to, oh, I don't know.
What, to
Aaron,
train
hit us with the
parents.
instant replay.
Yeah.
Can you explain that, where it says mastery of 6%, mastery, and then the green,
Yes. So the goal with that language underneath the band is that any student who originally was testing into not proficient, we want them to grow at least 25% because that will move them from not proficient into that minimally proficient. So that's where those numbers come from. I think Mr. Diaz may be able to speak a little more on that.
Earlier, I was saying for students, the minimum growth accepted is 25%. However, if a student is still falling in the not proficient, 25% is not going to get him enough to partially proficient or get to the yellow, green, or blue. So if they're not proficient, what we want to see is a minimum of 50% so they can jump at least 2 levels. However, when we get to the proficient and highly proficient, if you're already scoring at the 84, 25%, the higher you go, the harder you're gonna get the growth. Once you're at 85 to 100%, even 25% is not gonna be, there's not enough room in the bracket. But it's students at that level, between the 70 and 100%, it's 10% to 6%. It's going to be a minimal expected growth, so they can see the substantial move on to the next level. But anyone under, the students in 0 to 49%, growing 25% is not going to be sufficient or aggressive. If our goal is by next year, 80% of our students are going to be within the yellow. 80% are going to be within the green and blue. We need to be more aggressive on the growth that we want to see this year and next school year. Otherwise, we're never going to close the learning gap. If you're in the 70% and 100%, once you reach that goal, we still want you to grow. No less than 10% if you are within the 70s, and no less than 6% when you get to the 80%. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I thought that it was at 10%, and then I saw 6%. So I was like, I didn't know that
In
changed,
the blue.
if it changed.
Once you get to the blue, no less than 6% is expected.
Okay.
I'll
No
take
less.
the same.
No, I thought that's what it was, like last year, 10%.
I haven't changed that.
Okay. I guess I didn't look at it.
The 6% plus. I like the 6%, keep it in mind.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so the last type of data that you might see from some of the presentations, especially when we look at grades 3 through 8, is a connection between the district benchmarks and the state assessment. So this is one example of the district benchmark is there on the left and the state assessment is there on the right. And so what this tells us as a curriculum and instruction team is that our benchmarks are pretty spot on as an indicator for what will happen on the state assessments. I think if I remember right, this probably came from a grade level that we discussed, hey, maybe we need to look at our benchmark because the benchmark, it appears, was a little bit more, the benchmark was a little bit easier than the AASA, so we need to look at the rigor of our benchmark. Because again, we want our district benchmarks to be a predictor of what will happen on AASA, because then we can address what learning needs we have prior to taking that state assessment. So I think this was one where, because we have these data conversations regularly, anytime new data comes out, Medina and I sit down and we're like, all right, let's look at the data. Let's have fun, let's paw through it, let's see what's there.
I don't know if I'd call it fun, but yes.
I would call it fun. I'm like, let's go. Dive into the numbers. I love it. I love it. Maybe she tolerates it, but I love it. So these are the conversations that we have from a curriculum and instruction standpoint, because we cannot attest to what happens in that classroom every single day, but we can say, hey, maybe we need to look at the benchmark and increase that rigor a little bit so that we're getting an accurate measure of our students' proficiency. It's not about making it harder. It's about that accurate prediction of what may happen on the state assessment. Is it perfect every single time? No. But it's always that idea of continuous improvement. Hey, it's good, but it's not all the way there yet as a predictor. So to utilize Mr. Diaz's here's what, so what, now what? When we look through the lens of data, our here's what. The facts are some grade levels had substantial growth in moving their students towards proficiency, but others didn't. We saw that in the two data sets that we looked at right now together. Some grew. You need a pause?
We have to do a commercial.
Okay.
Structures and systems in place. Ready? Structures and systems in place. What is our system in place to look at data? Ready? I want you to next screen. This is our first step. Here's what. I want you to go like this, and I want you to say, here's what. So here's what the data is telling us to do. Here's what. And the next one is, so what? I want you to see it. Say, so what? So the first step is, here's what, so what, then what? That's our system in place. You're gonna see the structure as you review the data because the principals were expected to do that. Here's what the data is telling me. So, what is that? So what the data? What are the patterns that they're telling us that we need to do? And based on that, then what each one of them is going to do. So I want you to become familiar because this is what the system in place that we're going to be pushing moving forward. Here's what, so what, then what. The question is, so what are we going to do about it? So more specifically, what system are you going to put in place to address the here's what? So, say it.
Here's what, so what, then what?
Back to you.
Okay, thank you.
He made us practice those moves too the first time
Yes,
he
yeah,
brought
we
it
had to
up,
do it
so-
as well. It was scripted. My brain sometimes thinks of it as here's what is the facts. It's just the facts, it's just the numbers. The so what is that analysis piece, and the then what is that action step. I've looked at the data, I've done the analysis, now I need to act on it. Again, going back to that continuous improvement cycle. Plan, do, study, act. This is the study and act phase of it. So looking at the data, we noticed that some grade levels did have substantial growth and others did not. Our so what, the analysis piece was that sites and teachers really need to engage in those meaningful data conversations to drive instruction and intervention and enrichment. So the next steps, the systems that Medina and I are looking at to put into place are that data conversation templates will be an expectation at all levels with teachers, sometimes with teachers and their students, but definitely amongst teachers, amongst PLCs, with site admin, and at the district level. So modeling those conversations with our principals. Hey, it's not just an expectation for you, it's an all of us expectation. We will all be diving into the data together. Another next step is that we're gonna be purposeful about it. In our district ILTs, we're gonna implement data binders. Data is not just something to look at when it's too late. We wanna have those conversations frequently and regularly so that if there are systems that need to be adjusted, we can do it purposefully and in a timely manner. Yes.
What are your timeframes in regards to doing evaluating your evaluation process of how students are doing?
So it will depend a little bit site to site. So one of the things that has been put into place for this school year is the district formative assessments. Those are through Beyond Textbooks, our curriculum resource. And so those, I can't put like a hard and fast, it happens every week because it depends on how long the standard is taught for. But those data conversations are going to be a regular part of our district ILTs, which happen about every 2 weeks.
And do you have buy-in by the whole district?
It's somewhere in between from yes and no. That's why we all need to understand our role, understand our systems, and we all going to be on the same page, expecting to see the same. We're bringing you all the tools so that you can hear and hold us accountable. Are you hearing the plan? Are you hearing what are they going to do next? So we can be on the same page. This is going to be an expectation, not an invitation. This is what the data is telling us based on the analysis that the next step is that we need to ensure that we look at the data, that we have the coaching, that we have ILTs, and that we become more involved in the sites.
She brings up a good point in regards to if there's buy-in. I was gonna say that is this something that's done from the get-go when you're training your new teachers? Or is this presentation you're giving us going to be presented to all the staff?
So this, we're back on. All right. So this particular presentation won't be given directly to each staff, but a lot of the things that we're talking about within this of our next steps fall into the collective district ILT next steps. And so it is not currently rolling, but we are in the process of how to strategically roll this out. In terms of data conversations, we have built in time in every school site for reteach and enrich. So by design, those data conversations have to be had, they have to be had. Because I won't know which of my students need to be retaught, which of them need enrichment, unless I'm looking at my data strategically as a teacher. So some of it goes a little bit beyond buy-in because it's by design of the system. So teachers have to be having those purposeful data conversations in order to inform their day-to-day.
And so one way we're going to do that is by modeling it in ILTs with district leadership, with site leadership, so that it trickles down, so that we are all having these conversations. And so if the principals and APs need support or they don't understand it completely, we're practicing it together in ILT.
The question is, are they gonna see it? The answer is yes. However, they're gonna see it at the level that is appropriate based on the site. This presentation is intended to give a big picture, and our audience is gonna be the entire community. What we're sharing right now is what is the district plan. Tomorrow, you're gonna see how this plan translates into each site. And then each side is gonna present it to them is, this is the district goal, this is how it applies to our sites, now this is what I'm gonna expect from you. So what you will see is what we expect you to see and want you to see and give us feedback on is, how does it go from the district level all the way to the classroom level as you see those presentations?
And some of these pieces you might not hear as a part of the principal's 3-year plans and their data conversations because they're new pieces. We meet as an LEA to talk about what are the structures that we need to build to support success in classrooms. And so some of them may not be rolled out yet. Principals might not have them yet, but it's a system that we're rolling out this school year to facilitate that growth and that support. Yes. Some of them may be like, wait, what? So now looking through the lens of curriculum and assessment.
So our here's what is that the benchmarks assessments and the AASA, they appear to be pretty closely aligned. And our year at a glances, our YAGs, the documents had some inaccuracies this year. Like what we mentioned, some of the dates didn't match up. They had blank weeks when we were in school, so it was just something that didn't match up 100%. So what? Our benchmarks predicted our AASA scores pretty well, but they may not have followed the BT YAGs. And our YAGs were not used consistently and with fidelity across sites and grade levels. So now what? We're going to support sites with how to use benchmark data to support student learning in Tier 2. And we're also going to be monitoring the YAGs that'll be a part of our walkthrough conversations with sites.
Can you remind me, I know what YAX is, year at a glance, but what is the,
AASA, that is the state assessment.
oh, okay. That's an acronym for state assessment?
Arizona.
There's assessment, achievement, Arizona, and state in there. In what
One of
order,
those
I'm
A's.
not sure. Arizona,
Achievement, no.
Arizona's Academic Standards Assessment.
I was close. I had Arizona, okay?
Arizona's Academic Standards Assessment.
Okay.
Arizona's Academic Standard Assessment. Figured I'd say that into the microphone. And through the lens of instruction, You're going to hear a lot about the model of instruction. Our here's what, I'm going to go through that first row, and then I'll come back for that bottom row. So the top row, our here's what is that Tier 1 instruction continues to significantly vary in quality between classrooms and between sites. So what? What does that mean? It means that the model of instruction needs to be a major focus of our classroom visits and our site PDs. Our next step is that site PDs will continue to be monitored for consistency regarding that model of instruction. If our teachers aren't receiving consistent messaging about the importance of the model of instruction, they may not have a clear view of why it's so important, why that's the foundation upon which we're building everything that we're doing. In our second line there, here's what is that Beyond Textbooks is inconsistently implemented at each site. So our so what is that Beyond Textbooks needs to be a major focus during our classroom visits, ensuring that fidelity of implementation. We've ironed out some of those weird bits with the YAGs, so we should see that now.
And they all have access.
Yes, and they all have access. Our new teachers got just a little taste of BT today so that they know that it exists. Again, laying that foundation for future success. So our next steps, one of the big ones that y'all approved, thank you so much, it was the amendment to our calendar to go to the Beyond Textbooks Super Conference. It's a completely free conference where the focus is on Beyond Textbooks. So the curriculum resources, how to implement things, how to engage our students, how to have data conversations, all through that lens of Beyond Textbooks. So that's one of our huge next steps, on top of that continuous monitoring through classroom visits.
With the curriculum and assessments, what was talked about earlier, I know we have the curriculum person at the secondary site, right?
Our assistant principal of curriculum and instruction?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they will work closely with you guys to make sure that all of this is moving forward.
Yes.
Yes, we're going to work closely with them.
Personnel at the other sites to make sure this is going. And I guess my thoughts on Beyond Textbooks was that was going to be making the teachers' lives so much easier by going along with that. I don't understand why it's not being used, but I know you guys will understand that, and it's going to be a lot easier. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah, and I know one of the biggest things that we had last year is in regards to feedback for Beyond Textbooks was really just that the calendar didn't line up. They were like, why do we need 3 weeks for a benchmark assessment? And so we worked very closely with the folks at BT to ensure that what was presented on the calendar is what our teachers need and what they have asked for. So we understand, again, we can't change the past. We had a wonky calendar last year. All we can do is set the foundation for this year and say, we fixed the wonkiness in the calendar. The expectation is to use it now that it matches what we need.
Another thing to make it simpler is that all the sites uploaded all their district formative assessments from BT already into the platform. So when the school year starts, teachers don't have to create the assessments or try to upload them or anything. They're already created. So that should make things easier as well.
It's just finding those purposeful ways to streamline what it is that we're doing. Yeah.
Is there someone who does curriculum, or is the same person doing the curriculum for both secondary and middle school?
So so right now we just have assistant principals at each site. So I know that Ms. Pablo, who's now in the AP role at primary, she'll be supporting with curriculum and instruction. Ms. Morales over here, who is the AP, will be supporting with curriculum and instruction. And then at secondary, they have Rob Russell, who will be supporting with that. And then where there's, that's one person and a lot of teachers at each site. So where we can, we will also be supporting and filling in as we can to support their teachers.
And the reason I say this is because I've been saying this, I think that there has to be other staff, and I know that's something that we can't always afford to get as other staff, but to help with the middle school, because I feel like it's such a large piece of seeing secondary and middle school at the same time.
Can I ask a clarifying? When you say secondary and middle school, high school, middle school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was trying to clarify. Yeah, and so we do know that secondary has a big lift. They do have a kind of new team coming in this year as well. And so that's something that we've already discussed about systems that we can have in place to support them and make sure that their year rolls off as smoothly as possible.
Thank you.
That's it from,
And that's all
from
we've
us,
got.
unless you have any other questions.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's give our ladies a big hand. To summarize, I want you. I want you to write one thing you like, two things you learned, and three ways you're gonna hold us accountable. Thank you. Again, number one, write one thing you like about today's presentation. Number two new items that you learned or you walking away with. And number three, what are three ways you're gonna hold us accountable? What tools did we give you to hold us accountable? Can you guys see it? Let me know when you're ready so I can record your exit ticket or your assessment. Ladies, you've done a phenomenal job. If you need to get going, please do so. I'm going to hold on to record the assessment for today, and then they have to adjourn the meeting. Tanya, thank you for the support in putting all of the knowledge together and helping me in organize the presentation. Ladies, thank you for all of the work in analyzing and presenting and synthesizing and getting us ready for tomorrow.
Bye, ladies.
One more minute. And whatever you have, we can start sharing. And for tomorrow, make sure you leave all of your packages behind because you're going to need them for tomorrow's presentation. Don't take anything with you today. Leave them here because we're going to add new presentations. But I want you to refer back to this information. That way you can see the district, schools, and next time it's going to be departments. So who wants to go first? Stevens wants to go home. So share with us your takeaways from today.
I like that you took the time for us to review the 3-year stretch goals and had us get into do it individually and then get it into groups and create looking at what we knew. And I think that was really helpful because some of us remember it more than others, and then others were like trying to figure out what they were. So other things I learned during that activity was looking at how the Essential 10 is utilizing that activity by the Spiro teaching and connecting, helping us connect to one another, but also coaching. So understanding that we're being coached through this process and what is being used. As far as 3 ways to hold us accountable was all looking at the curriculum and instruction, making sure that we have a better understanding of that so we can ask those key questions or formulating questions based on the data that's being provided and looking at benchmarks and assessments and looking at ways we can continuously improve our support for staff and our students. The last thing was, here's what we have, so what, and then what? That's it.
wants to go next? Let's give her a hand. That's a great summary of today. Who wants to go next?
Okay, I like sharing of the data reviews and goals, along with providing guiding questions for, for growth and making positive feedback. I love the engagement part. And then the two things I learned was better understanding of the data reviews and outcomes, something that's expected. I didn't know what to put for the second one. What the acronym was ASSA meant. And then the accountability is maximizing student engagement through the models, continuing to ensure that teachers are understanding and supporting the BUSD model of instructions, continue providing and helping us understand data. Data is essential.
Give her a hand. Another way to summarize it. All right, which lady wants to go first?
Okay. I like that we were each given the model of instructions. So, and I like it because it shows the direction we're going, not only with the teachers, but with the students and with the teachers, from being a director to facilitator, coach, and then a consultant, which is basically what we done in the beginning when we done that. And it all also, with the essential 10, it goes back to the tier learning, just going over it again and again, making sure that we know what we're doing, and it's the same thing. I really like it. I also like it because it sets the students up for success in enforcing engagement and critical thinking, and that's what it is in the real world. In the real world, students don't work alone. People don't work alone. They collaborate with their employees, fellow employees, and peers, and so that is really getting them ready, which is one of our missions for the world. So I really like that. And then the number 2, what did I learn? The guiding questions. How we can use these questions to ask and get positive feedback. Once data is given, then we look at the data. We can ask, how did this take place? How did you increase, and what are you gonna do to make sure that the percentage goes up maybe in the next review? So what I also learned is our number 4 and 5 goal, which I couldn't remember, and I didn't even think past the essential standards and the 90% and all of that. But our number 4 goal was to support and challenge, and to provide tools and coaching and using data to challenge the status quo. Number 5 are standards-based instruction, engagement, and the culturally relevant, which was what Sylvia mentioned earlier. And then the accountability, or how are we going to hold them accountable by asking these questions and making sure that it continues to flow, and that we have better percentages, moving the growth of our students by asking those questions, and holding the sites accountable. That's it.
Let's give her a big hand. Thank you. That's it. Let's give her a big hand. I heard a little hand. Ms. Griswood.
Okay, the presentation presented was really well put together, and it's really helpful to look at all the scores that's presented. And what I learned is data review, comparison, and of all the grades. And then what I like is the BUSD model instruction. And I think this is excellent. I think it's going to be given to the teachers, to use. And and accountable. And I feel that it starts from the parents and goes on to the students and the teachers and the principal, superintendent, and us board members. So we need to all just be in it together to be accountable for what our students do and all our staff to do with education. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you so much. Again, today was only the foundation of the continuation of our 3-year plan. Our main keywords are going to be number 1, engagement, number 2, systems, and number 3 is going to be accountability, holding us accountable. Tomorrow, that's going to be rolling out the theme. I want you to continue to look on those pieces for tomorrow. I'm looking forward to see how in depth we're going to get in the models of instruction or engagement. How in depth are we going to get with the 3-year plan based on the here's what, so what, then what, and for each one of the sites. That way you can determine how you're going to hold us accountable. It's been nothing but a pleasure. Thank you for your active participation and engagement. And now we need to go back to our board clerk to adjourn the meeting. Make a motion.
All right, but before we motion, I really do want to thank Ms. Haley and Ms. Medina for their presentation.
Ms. Kinsey.
Ms. Kinsey. Ms. Kinsey and Ms. Medina.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I really do want to thank them for their presentation because what they do is you don't see that in the forefront. They're doing the background work to make sure that the teachers have those tools they need to be successful in the classroom. And it's a lot of work. There's so much that they're doing behind the scenes to make sure that that's possible. So I really want to thank, they've done a great presentation and I'm so glad that they were here.
Thank you for acknowledging it. The goal is, they're successful when no one notices it, but it's when they don't do it that everyone will notice it.
I think they enjoy what they are doing. I mean, I think education is the forefront of who they are and what they've learned and what they've done.
I concur.
That was gonna be my opinion too, is that you can truly tell they enjoy and they're passionate about what they do. It also gave us a different perspective of how we could look at the data that's been given to us and breaking it down so we understand it, and it definitely made more sense. And I'm really grateful for that because then I think it gives us a different perspective. And I think a lot of times maybe principals feel discouraged that we're not asking those questions, those critical questions, but I think this is a stepping stone for us and a learning process.
Coaching, Essential 10.
Yes.
I want to thank you all for your support, for supporting not only the vision, supporting the 3-year plan, and supporting the tools that I need so I can reach those 3-year goals. Thank you for seeing the value. I'm super excited about next year. The cabinet that we have, it's pretty passionate. You will see major changes this upcoming year, not only for the cabinet, but also the leadership that is becoming part of the ILT. You're gonna see a new sense of energy and the alignment and the purpose actions that we're gonna be taking place. I'm extremely blessed and grateful that you are active members and supporting at all levels, not only through the board meetings, but doing classroom visits, participating in the retreats, and engaging in the content Again, this is very critical in the year that you understand our goals, that you understand what we're doing, how we're going to do it, what are going to be the systems in place, so you understand how we're moving forward. On behalf of my team, I thank you, and I'm so looking forward for tomorrow as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Ella, do you want to say anything before we adjourn? You want to say anything before? Okay. So, anything else?
Second.
So we have one motion by Ms. Hendricks, seconded by Ms. Stevens. All those in favor?
Aye.
Masato?
We have 3 yes. No, 4 yes. We have 4 yes. And if you want to state the time in which it's going to be adjourned.
8:16 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
For those that join us virtually, we appreciate your support. Thank you for engaging. And please reach to any of us for any questions or clarifications. Have a great night. Hasta mañana.